Salute to you all. The brave never fall. If you want to get up every morning and commit to a day of small victories, one of the best ways to do that is to challenge yourself against things that are already challenges in your day every single day. Meaning it's a mindset thing. You're showing up for yourself in a different way because you're showing up to take on these challenges, not just survive them. Every day you're going to have a different challenge. Every day there's going to be something, when you wake up in the morning, as soon as you get up, your mind is already going through all the things you got to do today, and maybe you're excited about them, maybe you're afraid of them, maybe you're super pumped to just get something over with because you procrastinated for way too long, or maybe there was something else that you're dreading doing because maybe it's connected to something larger that's going to be continuous, like a goal, reaching something that is going to take a long period of time. And maybe this is day 1 or day 21 of this journey, but you got to wake up and face it. How do you get over it? Challenge it. I do this every single day. It is something that I do consciously. My mindset, the discipline is I am not going to go into any day feeling like there's a challenge in front of me that I'm not going to say, you're not challenging me. I'm challenging you. You're speaking directly to whatever that challenge is for you that day. You're not allowing this challenge to control your mind and your thoughts, your heart and your body and your soul. You are in control. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into the mindset immediately when you wake up in the morning. And hopefully you've done your homework the night before, because you should be prepping for this the night before. There's nothing worse in the world than waking up and realizing you didn't do enough of your homework before you got to go take a big test, right? So you want to do all the studying and all the test work the night before. You want to do practice tests. Go over scenarios in your mind of that challenge that's going to come through the next day. Get it set in stone. Because what happens is once you wake up in the morning, you realize, all right, know what's going to happen here. I've gone through all the scenarios. I shouldn't be surprised by anything that happens today. And if I am surprised, I'm still ready for that, because you got to throw in that extra caveat that anything and everything could happen in a split second, and you have to be prepared for it. So no matter what happens throughout the day, you should be prepared for almost anything. It's a mindset. You're challenging the day. Every day is a challenge. So instead of responding to everything that happens to you throughout the day, be in control of it. Be proactive. Be prepared for anything. Don't allow life to hit you so hard where you take life way too personally, because we're all going through this together. I'll repeat that. Don't get to a point where you're taking life way too personally, because everyone is going through the same thing you're going through. The difference is the mindset, the intent, the goal. How are you showing up each day? If you're showing up with a weakened mindset every morning, that's going to carry out throughout the day. Now, maybe you can correct it, but you've wasted half your day trying to correct something you could have gotten down the night before. Every time you go through each day, you have to understand that when you're going through a day, if you write stuff down, because some people use journals, use a journal. If you have to use an audio clip, use an audio clip. If you have to talk to a coach, talk to a coach. If you have to talk to a friend, talk to a friend. But start getting into a routine of something that can hold you accountable. But make sure that that accountability is coming from you first and not from some reactionary element outside of you. So when you wake up and you realize I have to do A, B, and C, if you go through A, B, and C the night before, you'll get through A, B, and C a lot quicker, and then you're moving on to the extra stuff that you probably didn't even realize you could get to because you've knocked all this stuff out. You're not going through the motions while you're actually doing these things. You've already done them. So what you're doing is you're going to go through each single piece of challenges throughout the day as quickly as you possibly can and efficiently as you possibly can. You don't want to take too long with these things. You want these things to be done as quickly as possible so you can free up time to add more things into your day. And hopefully, if you've done enough things, you have earned your rest at the end of the day. Because that's the most important thing throughout each day, is that you've earned your rest and that you're not just laying around for the sake of laying around. You've deserved your time to lay around. You've deserved your mindset to feel like your mind is ready to rest, and it feels a lot better. It's just like when you have dinner. If you didn't eat throughout the day, how much better does your dinner taste at the end of the night? Versus if you ate all day long and then you get to dinner, it's just food at that point. It's just more stuff you put in your body. But the longer you wait, the better things taste. Same if you're dating someone. Before you actually make love to them for the first time, the longer you wait, the better it's going to feel. It's the same way in life with everything. The more you put into something, the more you're going to get out of it. If it's just a flash in the pan, no discipline type thing where you have this one day of everything went great, you were proactive, you did all the things you needed to do, you hit your goals, you did all this extra stuff you probably didn't plan on doing, but it's just one day out of a month, then what does that really mean? That's like, going back to the food analogy, that's like you having the most expensive restaurant once a month, and then the rest of the month you're just piecing together crackers and soup the rest of the month, and you're saying it's all the same. It's not all the same. It's completely different. You have to understand that if you want to get to a place of where you're challenging each day, that challenge is going to come from you making the conscious decision to challenge the day before, not the day of. So when you wake up in the morning, you have to understand that when you move into that first thing that you do in the morning, whatever that is, everybody's routine is different. For me, is wake up and make your bed. That victory is over. I don't want to hear my alarm. So if I get up before my alarm, that victory is checked off. If I'm already getting dressed and getting showered and shaved, or I got to run in or whatever, all that's checked off. Now I can move on to the other things. And what I found is when I do that, I end up always having extra time to get some studying in, some extra reading, to talk to some people, to spend time with some people that I care about, and I earned it. So I'm not second guessing anything that I did. In fact, I'm looking forward to tomorrow because I saw how efficient today was, and I didn't drown in it. When you get to a point where you can do that, then everything else around you seems to kind of just fall into place. And it's that, going back to that Bruce Lee analogy of flow, you start to become the things that are around you, instead of you always being left on the outskirts looking at stuff that you want. You don't want to do that. You want to get to a point where you are what you want. You conform to each situation like water. If you pour water into a cup, it becomes a cup, Bruce Lee says. You pour it into a teapot, it becomes a teapot. It's the same ideal. When you wake up in the morning, you want to flow throughout the day. Whatever challenge comes, you want to conform to that challenge, become whatever that is, and get it knocked out and be done with it. And also reflect on what you did, because this is where the consistency comes in. If you do all that stuff and then you immediately go into fun mode and you forget about all the little things that you felt during that time, all the emotions that you felt during that time, whatever it is you were overcoming, or you don't remember how your mind was working in that moment, or how free you felt, or how your body responded to it, then you really didn't get anything out of it. Which is why I think writing it out in a journal, or a diary, or talking to somebody to hold you accountable, anything you can do to remember how you felt during that time period where you were actually getting through all those challenges that you knew were going to come that day, and you actually got through all of them, you had a great day, and you earned your rest. Don't forget how you felt during that time, because that is what's going to motivate you to repeat that. And I think a lot of times people do this one flash in the pan day where they have this one day where they do everything right, and they'll get to the exercise part and their body's aching, and they think, well, I liked all the other stuff that I did, but that one thing that I did hurt. So I don't know if I want to repeat that same type of day. And I always try to tell people, no, you should do that again, because pain is part of the problem here, right? People don't want to feel pain. People don't want to feel like there's too much stuff they have to do. They don't want to be put in a place where the mindset requires them to say, no matter what happens today, I have no excuse but to keep going. And I can't hold anyone else accountable if I'm not holding myself accountable. So I can't blame other people for me not getting through my day. I can't blame anybody but myself. If you go up against any challenge, the first thing that pops through your mind should be, no matter what happens, I'm going to get through this. And I'm going to learn from it, so the next time this challenge pops up, I'm ready to take it on. And if you're not ready to do that, that challenge is going to beat you over the head until you're into the ground, because you have given up before you even got started, which is why I say start challenging the challenges. Instead of thinking this challenge is so tough, I don't know if I can get through it, think, I know I'm going to get through it. The question is, how many times am I going to get through this thing? Meaning the same challenge is going to come up again. Are you going to be ready for it the next time? Or are you going to sit there and cry and be a baby about it and say, this challenge is too tough, I don't even really want to get started with the first time around? How do you know what you're made of if you don't get started on the challenge? Just attack it. What is the harm in it? Because what happens after a while when you see a challenge in front of you and you start putting it off, even 25, 30 minutes, if you keep saying, I'll get to it in about an hour, what happens is that you've already lost, in a way, a lot of your day. You've already lost victories that you could have earned because you've made excuses. And there are no excuses. Now, we're human beings. Everybody makes excuses. I do it every day too, but I try to make them as minimum as possible. So when my mind goes to, oh, I'd rather do that later, I've developed a challenge for myself. Whenever I know I'm supposed to be doing something or I'm capable of doing something, and my mind drifts to, maybe we could do that later, I automatically say, nope, that was an excuse. You're going to do it right now, and you're going to do it harder than what you initially was thinking you were going to do in the first place. So if I think, okay, I want to go for a run today, my mind goes to, maybe we can do it tomorrow. And I know I have the time to do it right now. Not only do I go out and run, but I also go out and run longer than I had initially planned on running in the first place, just to overcome something in my mind that is a weakness, and that is trying to push things off to later when you know you have the time and energy to do it now. If you want to succeed in life, challenge everything, including your challenges. Don't make excuses, and make sure your focal point each day starts the day prior. Start planning for every scenario. I always find it to be disturbing to me when people have the opportunity to change things drastically in their lives, and what they choose to do is that they choose to make excuses. And they justify them by saying they don't have enough time, they don't have enough help, they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough intelligence, they don't have enough emotion, they don't have the right spirituality, their body isn't good enough. And these are all excuses, because what you can do as a human being is you adapt. And adaptation and evolution is part of the human experience. And when you stop that progress in yourself, you're halting a piece of your own humanity. Because we were never meant to just sit in stasis and not move and not accomplish things and overcome things. The whole point of the human existence, how we got here in the first place, regardless if you believe in human evolution or not, the evolution of a human being throughout a lifetime is evident in each person. We start off as a baby and we end up old. We essentially return to being babies because we have to have our loved ones take care of us. And that evolution in itself is a process. And everything we know when it comes to DNA and cells, everything is broken down to smaller things, to atoms and cells and electrons and protein, all of these things that make up the universe. When you start thinking about that, you were never meant to stand still. You were always meant to do something great. You was always meant to do something that's going to make you grow, to produce a level of a level of you expanding who you are as a person, exploring all the avenues and individuality that is you. And when you don't do that, you are putting a lockdown on an existence that is just urging you to allow it to break free of that. And not challenging yourself every day is part of the problem. And this is anyone. And I say this about myself. I try to challenge myself every single day. I fail. I have victories every day, big and small, and I have failures every day, big and small. And I expect those failures to be there. If they're not there, I start thinking, okay, maybe I'm not pushing myself hard enough. Maybe I'm the one making the excuses. Maybe I'm the one who needs to raise the bar. And when I feel that way, I do exactly that. I start going into my brain and start figuring out, what am I doing wrong? How can I do things better? What's the avenue that's going to put me in place where I'm able to grow? I don't want to go down the avenue that's going to have a brick wall at the end of it, dead end, and then you have to turn around and maybe try to pick another road. Often we know what is going to make us grow. But too often we know that is going to take an incredible amount of effort. And people shy away from that. They don't want to go down that road of challenge because there is inevitable hurt and pain, and there's going to be tears, and there's going to be times where you're going to feel alone. Your body's going to hurt. Your mind's going to be all cloudy, and you're going to feel unbalanced, and you're going to feel like people are letting you down, you're going to feel like you're letting other people down. And when you look at all of that in a collage-like state, of course it's going to look like a too big of a goal for you. But what you have to do is you have to understand that it's just a collage-like state. It's just a picture. What you get to do is you get to go up to that picture and point at whatever point in that picture is a challenge, and you just focus on that. Just keep your finger on that point, on that part of the picture, until you're done with that part, and move on to the next part of the picture, and you point at that as your focal point, and you take on that challenge. You don't try to take on the entire collage at one time. It's just too much. I've repeated that over and over and over again thus far up to this journey. We're on the home stretch now with this first phase of the Brave Never Fall podcast, where we have gone up the giant volcano, and we're coming back down, or up the mountain, and we come back down. Now we're facing the volcano, I should say. When you're doing all this stuff, you have to remember that this is a process that is going to take a very long time. And if you try to do too much without understanding the magnitude of what all that is, of course you're going to have failure, because it's just too much to bear. It's too much weight. You can't change everything about your life at the exact same time. It's much easier if you do it one at a time. You take one piece of your life and challenge that piece until you no longer have to challenge it. And at that point, you're just maintaining it. You challenge that piece when you need to, but at the point where you feel like, okay, I can maintain this part, I got this part to a point where I can still improve upon it, but it doesn't have to be the focal point anymore. Now I can move on to another point. And then you focus on that until you get it right. Until you get it right. And you don't give up on that part. You don't start trying to maintain something that's not right until you get it right. You focus on it until it's right. If it takes 2 years, it takes 2 years. I'm speaking from experience here. You have to do things one at a time. You can't multitask with your existence. You can do that in life with business and errands and, trying to do a to-do list. I mean, when you go to the store and you're trying to do 15 different things at once, you don't want to do that type of list, check off list type thing with the things that are important to you in your life that make up who you are. You don't want to be, you can do small little things here and there, but when there's a focal point, it's a focal point. If your focal point is a huge goal that you set out for that year, then you need to focus on that and make it your focal point. Everything else underneath that has to you can work on them, but they cannot be as high of a focal point as that major one that you want, because it's going to demand and it's going to desire all your attention. And if your purpose isn't just focused on that, you're going to lose sight of that, and it's going to level off, and something else that shouldn't even be the focal point is going to somehow become the focal point. And you'll look back a year from that point and be like, wait a minute, I thought that was my goal. How did I end up doing this so much better? But I really don't need this. I needed that. It's because you lost sight. You lost focus on what was most important for you to fix in your life. And you chose probably something that was a little bit easier, a little bit more fun for you, and you stepped away from the big challenge. Those big challenges are the ones you want to stay focused on completely. Keep your eyes on them. Don't run away from them. Don't make excuses about it. Do whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes. If you fall off the wagon, get right back up and keep going. Because you're going to fall off. You're going to have bad days where you're not going to want to do it anymore. You're going to have horrible, horrible days where you just don't want to do this shit. But those are the days I find when I don't want to do something, I do it. So much more rewarding. You know you're doing the right thing because you're still doing it despite the fact that you didn't have to do it. And those are the small victories that I love that add up to big victories. Those little small victories when you don't want to do something and you bravely and boldly step in front of that goal and say, I don't give a damn how I feel today. I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to take you down. And you're speaking directly to the challenge. You're not allowing the challenge to throw the first punch every day. You're throwing the first punch. And then when that challenge does start punching at you, you have your guard up. You're ready to go. You've already attacked. You're in the fight. But you cannot get there if you're making excuses. You cannot get there if you're not prepared to take on whatever that challenge is going to bring to you that day. And who knows what that challenge might bring to you every single day. again, these challenges are often reoccurring. They're going to keep coming at you. You have to stay prepared. You have to stay focused. And you have to remember that you are here to grow in all facets of your life. In your mind, your heart, your body, and your soul, you're here to grow. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall.